Hello lovely people, welcome to another video. Today I don't even know what I'm calling this video yet because I want to talk to you about 5 tropes slash traits slash features slash themes in books that I enjoy. I'm going to tell you what those 5 themes are, and I've also picked out 1, 2, 3-ish books to show you for each trait slash trope slash theme slash moment in book. I don't know. Basically, there's certain things I'm currently really obsessed with in the books I'm reading, and they are either things that are very specific to setting, for example, or quite a generic trope that I know quite a lot of people are a fan of, for example. So yeah, I thought I would share with you the 5 things for me that I'm currently really enjoying reading about, and the things that I'm starting to look for in the books that I read. Kind of excited about this because when people have been like, what's your favourite trope? I'm like, I don't know what tropes I enjoy, and now I think I kind of know what tropes I enjoy. Honorary mention to a slow burn romance trope, which I haven't read enough of in fiction books, but I've been watching Bridgerton and that has the ultimate slow burn romance in season 2, and I just, yes. So I have now downloaded the first Bridgerton book onto my Kindle. So slow burn romance is not one of these, but honorary mention. So the first trait I feel like is one of the more obvious ones, and that is enemies to lovers, which kind of accompanies slow burn, I suppose, because usually if we have an enemies to lovers romance, that is going to be a slow burn because we need to see them go from enemies to then become lovers. And what I enjoy about the enemies to lovers trait is that you can either see it in the form of we are just seeing through one character's eyes, in which case we see them go from hatred to love with this character, or we're seeing both characters and we kind of get that back and forth between them, but we also see both attributes and negative sides to them, so we as the reader can kind of see maybe they're not as bad as the other person thinks they are. So I really enjoy this trope, and again it's one that I've only really started to enjoy recently, I would say. Over the past few years I've read some really good enemies to lovers books, but it wasn't one I necessarily would have thought to list until pretty recently, and I do think possibly Bridgerton is helping me with that because it's the slow burn angst, the sexual tension, the drawn out chemistry. I just love it. So the books that I have got in this category that I've pulled off my shelves, obviously this isn't all of the books I own with this trope, but a couple of ones I read recently that I really enjoyed. We've got Only a Monster by Vanessa Len, and we've also got These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. Only a Monster flips things on its head and follows the perspective of the monster in this story, except she really isn't that monstrous. And I don't want to go into detail about what the romance is because I don't want to spoil anything for this book, but there is certainly a hatred relationship brewing that becomes a lot more softened throughout this book, and I really love it. Then we also have These Violent Delights, which is a Romeo and Juliet retelling, except it's set in 1920 Shanghai, and Romeo and Juliet, or Roma and Juliet in this book, are part of rival gangs, and they have a lot of feud between them, and it's just so good. I absolutely loved both of these books, but the sequel to These Violent Delights, Our Violent Ends, broke me and solidified in that I'm really enjoying the enemies to lovers trope at the moment. So these are my enemies to lovers recommendations. Obviously there are a lot more, but if you've got any recommendations as you're watching this that you think I'd enjoy or anyone else would enjoy, please do drop them below in the comments. I keep going really overexposed because the lighting keeps going from very cloudy to very sunny, so apologies for the awful lighting in this. Okay, this next one is a bit niche. This isn't a trope, this is just a setting. And this is a setting that I've read about twice and have one book on my TBR that I have just really enjoyed reading about and would really like to explore more in this setting, so that is why one of these books is still on my TBR. So that setting is books set in New Orleans. I don't really know what exactly it is about the New Orleans setting that draws me in, but I enjoy the fact that there is all of these stories, all of this haunting kind of element around it, and there's kind of a fantasy element there as well, with quite a lot of these books centering around the idea of vampires and things. It's just very intriguing to me, and when I'm reading these books I do find myself looking up more details about the stories they're mentioning. So the books that I have picked for this all match in colour. We have got Mina and the Undead by Amy McCall, Bridge of Souls by V.E. Schwab, and The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh. So I haven't read The Beautiful yet, but this is on my TBR, and this is very much sparked by the fact that I enjoyed these two so much. So Mina and the Undead is I don't want to call it a historical fantasy, but set in the 90s, and it bugs me to say that's historical, but I think that when I was on a panel with Amy, it was classed under historical, which is wild. So anyway, Mina and the Undead is a historical fantasy following Mina, who goes to New Orleans to live with her sister for a little bit in a year between schools, and she meets all of her sister's friends and works at this haunted house that they work at. And then there is some goings on with potential vampires. They believe that there is something happening with vampires and some murders that are going on, and this is exploring that, but also really exploring New Orleans itself and also exploring all of the stories that surround it. Our main character is a big fan of horror films, and we see that come into it quite a lot, which is really good fun. Bridge of Souls is another one that explores the stories, because this follows our main character whose parents run a ghost hunting show. One of them is trying to prove ghosts, one of them to disprove, and they go to New Orleans. This is the third book in the series, and so far we've seen Paris and we've also seen Scotland, and they go to New Orleans here and explore New Orleans for ghosts. And this one definitely feels like it has similar vibes to Mina and the Undead, in the sense of both are looking into stories around New Orleans and looking into the history of New Orleans. This one is tapping more into the ghost side, whereas Mina and the Undead is the vampire side. And then we have The Beautiful, which I believe is also the vampire side. I have to show you this edition because this is the Fairy Loot edition, and it's very pretty, very striking. So I think this one follows the vampire side as well, and is following somebody who's fleeing from their old life and ends up in New Orleans. I am very excited to read this one when I get to it. I have been wanting to pick it up for a while, but I hadn't had the third book yet. Now I do, and I feel like I can dive into the trilogy. So these are my 3 New Orleans picks. Okay, there needs to be a name for this next one, and then maybe there is and I just don't know it, but the next one is books that are clever mysteries that involve parts of the past piecing together parts of the present. So I mean books kind of a bit like Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons, the idea that the mystery is set in the modern day but has been influenced by historical events or historical symbols and things like that just kind of go together to shape where the mystery is going now. So the 2 books that I have got for this, one I've read, one I haven't. We have got The Book of Secrets by Tom Harper and also Labyrinth by Kate Moss. There's an E on the end, I don't know. So The Book of Secrets follows a person who goes missing after investigating into something, and the only person that can find her is this specialist in the subject, also happens to be her ex-boyfriend. It's a little bit saviour complex, I'm not gonna lie, but it is a good fun mystery, and it does tick all the boxes for being a modern mystery that ties into things that have happened in the past. It was really good fun, I really, really enjoyed it. And then we also have Labyrinth by Kate Moss, which I haven't read yet, and honestly now I'm looking at it I'm like, what are you about again? But I know it definitely ties in elements of the past, so let me have a look at the blurb to refresh my memory quick. So this one follows 2 different timelines. We have 1209, in which we are following a 17-year-old girl who has been given a mysterious book by her dad that contains the secret of the True Grail. And then in 2005 we have a woman who has found 2 skeletons in France with a mysterious labyrinth symbol carved in the rock, and realises that she's disturbed something that should have remained hidden. Every single time I read the blurb for this book I want to pick it up. Maybe this is one I should take on holiday with me, because I'm looking for some chunky books. And I know that this one is meant to be really excellent. So yeah, both of these for my clever mystery type of things. Also other ones that would fit into this would be The Shadow of the Wind, and as I said, Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons series. Both of those are really good. Yeah, I really love this genre. I just can never find enough that fits into it in the way I want it to, if that makes sense. Like I'm kind of niche with what I like within this, but when I find something I cling on to it, which makes no sense that I've not read Labyrinth yet. I think it's just because it's quite chunky, because this is nearly 700 pages, which is quite big. Okay, my fourth trait that I like is when a book has some kind of a passion in it, whether it's a passion for art, for music, for literature, for sport, for dance, for acting, whatever the passion is. I love when a book has that in it. It makes me feel my passions ignite, even if they're not the same passions the main characters have, and it just makes me feel happy and like I can connect with these characters because they have this burning feeling of passion. So the 2 books that I picked is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and also Portrait of a Thief by Grace D. Lee. Of course I've picked these 2. Daisy Jones and the Six follows a band throughout their years. It is in an interview style, very unique format, absolutely fantastic. You will 100% think this band is real. You'll know it's not real, but you'll still go to Google it and think it's real. I loved this book. It was so good. And the way their lives pieced together, and Daisy Jones being a bit separate to the band Six and them coming together and how they met, so brilliant. Taylor Jenkins Reid is just such an amazing author. Grace D. Lee is also an absolutely amazing author. Portrait of a Thief follows 5 students who are taking part in an art heist. They are being tasked with taking back 5 Chinese pieces of art that have been taken by Western museums and displayed there, and they have been tasked with bringing them back to China. So our main character in this is a specialist in art, is studying art at the moment at university, and you can just tell there's a real care and passion for what they're doing, and the reason they're doing this, on top of obviously getting a huge payout for what they're doing, is also seeing this art put back in its rightful place. So both of these display passions for the arts as a subject in all, but music and art just so beautifully, and I really love them. There's so many books I have on my shelves that do this kind of thing. I mean, Taylor Jenkins Reid does such a good job of displaying these kind of passions. Malibu Rising, Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, they all follow people that work in these industries and have this passion for what they do. And I suppose actually she almost follows a theme of what happens when that passion kind of reaches a burnout or reaches too much, which is a really interesting side of it as well. But generally, these two were my top ones to pick. And lastly, we're going to go back down the obvious route again to end the video, but my last two are from the trope of found family. I love this trope so much. I think it's such a lovely way of seeing these characters be looked after and feel like you yourself are almost part of that found family as well as you get to know the characters, especially if you have chapters that switch between multiple characters. And I think it makes it all the harder to put these books down and to not be with these characters when you're just kind of reading on to your next book. You feel like you still want to be within this found family unit. So the two books that I have picked for this is Dangerous Remedies, the whole series by Kat Dunn, and also TJ Klune's Under a Whispering Door. Under a Whispering Door does found family in such a beautiful way. This takes place in a cafe that is situated in this limbo state in which when you die, you go to this cafe and you kind of get your opportunity to move on and close off all your affairs. Sorry if you can hear my door being pushed by the wind. Anyway, close off all your affairs and be able to step on to the afterlife, step into the afterlife. And this follows our main character who really isn't ready to do any of that and very much goes through quite a change through this book and becomes part of this little family unit that they have there, and it makes my heart feel incredibly warm. It's a very emotional story and it's just absolutely beautiful. Also another edition that we just have to appreciate because it's so pretty. This is the Illumicrate edition and I love it. Kat Dunn's Dangerous Remedy series is truly fantastic. This I believe is going to be a trilogy with the final book coming out this year and I am so excited. The first and second book were brilliant. This follows a gang of people who live in France and they are within the French Revolution era and they are trying to free people that are being sent to their deaths. They are pieced together from several different types of backgrounds, each of them, and they each have their different roles to play, and they end up saving somebody that actually has a lot more to them than they first realised, and they don't want to deliver them to the person that enlisted them to help save them, so they try and protect this person. And they are just one big family unit, even more so for the fact they've got someone to protect within their midst and the way that it kind of works in like a parenting element almost. But I love the way they all respond to each other. I love that we have these brilliant LGBT relationships in this book and it's just so brilliant and so much fun. This feels like a movie in my head. It immediately jumps into the action. If you probably heard me praising this book before, because it's just so good. So yeah, these are the two I've picked for found family. Obviously there are a lot of other books, Six of Crows for example, and there are just so many fantastic ones that go into this theme, but these are the two I wanted to pick. So those are my 5 tropes, traits, themes, settings in books that I enjoy. I need to decide on what I'm actually going to call this video, but I hope you enjoyed this. If you do have any recommendations for each of those traits, tropes, themes or settings that I recommended or said that I enjoyed, please do pop them down in the comments below because I always want to hear more about these kind of books. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy, please do give it a thumbs up. As I said, you can comment down below with your own recommendations. You can subscribe to see more of my face on your feed, and you can also find my Patreon link down below where you can get lots of extra content from me. Thank you so much for watching. Keep smiling and stay positive.